Why the Pheasant Has Red Eyes. Pronounce these words, page 46. Chicks, prince, pit, sitting, will, little, eat, tree, pleased, see, hear, tears, pheasant, eggs, nest, red, went, fell, great, laid, wait, ate, day, became. How the Peacock Got Its Tail, page 51. Many years ago, one of the gods in heaven looked down into a forest filled with animals. "I think I can make their lives happier by making them more beautiful," he said. So he came to earth to help the animals. First, he asked the monkey, "Are you happy with the way you look? People often look at you and laugh." "Let them laugh," answered the monkey. "Look how fast I can swing from tree to tree, and I am much better looking than the horse. Maybe you can help him." When the god asked the horse if he wanted to be more beautiful, the horse said proudly, "I am already quite handsome. Why don't you ask the elephant?" The elephant said, "I don't need help. My size and strength make me beautiful." And he pointed to a peacock on the branch of a tree. "He can use some help." The peacock jumped down from the branch. "If you could make me more beautiful, I would be very happy." The god smiled with pleasure. "I will give you a tail of long feathers that will spread out to look like colorful jewels. Each feather will end in a brilliant black eye, prettier than the eye of a princess in the palace of the emperor." When the god had done what he had promised, the proud peacock spread his wonderful tail for all the animals to see. And so he has done ever since. How the Peacock Got Its Tail. Pronounce these words, page 54. Forest, filled, fast, feather, pheasant, elephant, people, peacock, pointed, pleasure, pretty, promised, said, help, strength, spread, end, emperor, happy, asked, branch, black, palace, animal. Why there is moss on trees, page 59. Long, long ago, two Eskimo women traveled to the seashore every spring. They went to catch fish for the long winter months. Early one morning, they filled their net with fish. Then they cleaned the fish, cut them into thin strips, and hung them in the sun to dry. The two women divided the fish evenly, but there was one piece left over. Each one wanted it. They soon began to fight. They pulled each other's hair so hard that some of it came out and fell on the ground. Suddenly, there was a strange noise. The women were frightened. They stopped fighting, and one of them said, "If it's the forest giant, he will kill us. Let's get out of here." They ran to the beach and got into their boat. Just then, a tiny needlefish opened its mouth wide and made the frightening noise. One of the women snatched up the fish and called it a troublemaker. The little needlefish answered, "You caused the trouble by fighting. You should be ashamed of yourselves." The angry woman cut it in half, and the two women ate it, so it couldn't scold them. When the women went back to get their fish, they saw hair on the ground. They were so ashamed that they picked it up and threw it into the forest. Ever since then, their hair has been clinging to trees as moss. Why there is moss on trees. Pronounce these words. Page 62. Shore. Fish. Ashamed. Catch. Each. Snatched. Cleaned. Clings. Frightening. Ground. Scolded. Spring. Strange. Trees. Trouble. How the Rooster Got His Red Crown. Page 67. Long, long ago, there were 6 bright suns in the sky over China. They made the sky too bright and burned the plants below. The emperor knew that with no plants, his people would die. One of his wise men said, "You should shoot the suns." So the emperor sent for a famous archer to shoot down the suns. At first, the archer thought it was impossible because the suns were too far away. Then he saw their reflections in a pool of water. He shot one reflection, and the sun sank to the bottom of the pool. He fired again and again, and soon there were 5 suns at the bottom of the pool. The 6th sun saw what was happening. He was very frightened, and he disappeared behind a hill. When everybody woke up the next morning, it was very dark. Now there was no sun. They needed the sun. First, a powerful tiger asked the sun to return, but the tiger's powerful roar only made the sun cover his ears. Many other animals tried to get the sun to return, but they couldn't. Finally, a fat rooster tried. The sun listened. "What a lovely sound," he said, and looked to see who made the sound. When the people saw the sun, they cheered. The sun came out all the way. Then he put a little red crown on the top of the rooster's head. And every morning since that faraway day, the good rooster wears his red crown and calls for the sun. How the Rooster Got His Red Crown. Pronounce these words. Page 70. New. Shoot. Pool. Soon. Rooster. You. Would. Looked. Should. Good. Put. Sun. One. What. Up. Cover. Lovely. Why children are different colors. Page 75. The sky god, Nyame, was very clever. He created the sun, moon, and stars by cutting holes in the sky. He filled an enormous basket with soil, plants, and animals and lowered it from the sky to create the earth. Then he noticed an empty space and needed to lower another basket. Now, Ialoda was a girl's spirit who lived inside Nyame. When she heard that Nyame was lowering another basket, she said to her special boy spirit friend, "Let's watch." They sneaked up into Nyame's mouth. They climbed over his tongue and leaned out over his lips. Suddenly, Nyame sneezed. The two spirits fell to the earth. After a while on earth, they began to feel lonely. Ialoda said, "I have an idea. Let's make little ones like us. We can use clay to make models and bake them in the fire." So they made boys and girls of clay and baked them. The first models were pale white, creamy white, and pinkish white. The next day they made more, but baked them longer. The models were deep black, dark brown, and reddish brown. Then they made golden yellow and golden brown models. The boy spirit said, "It is time to breathe life into them." And so he and Ialoda became the first father and mother. And of course, from those first children came all the children of the world in all their beautiful colors. Why children are different colors. Pronounce these words. Page 78. Earth, herd, first, world, girls, clever, lowered, over, longer, another, mother, father, breathed, then, that, they, them. How Men and Women Came to Be, page 83. In the beginning, there was a noisy god of the sky named Huracan, and a quiet god named Feathered Snake. One day, the two powerful gods decided to make the earth. Together, they said, "Earth, let it be." Soon, there were plains and mountains and valleys. Then they decided to make living things. Together, they said, "Life, let it be." Soon there were plants and animals. There were birds and fish and insects. The gods wanted to be thanked for their work. Together they said, "Speak, call our names, praise us." But all they heard were animal and bird sounds. Then Huracan said, "We must make man." He and Feathered Snake made 4 men. The men saw clearly and understood everything. They could see Huracan and Feathered Snake, and, without being asked, they thanked the gods. The gods were not pleased. "These men are too good," said Feathered Snake. "They will be our equals and stop praising us." Huracan thought for a while. "I will dim their eyes," he said. He blew mist into their eyes, and then they could only see things clearly when they were close, and they could not understand and explain everything. When the men were asleep, Huracan and Feathered Snake made 4 beautiful women. They dimmed their eyes and placed them asleep beside the men. And so, men and women came to be. Their eyes are still dim, and the world still seems marvelous and mysterious, and so they praise their gods again and again. How Men and Women Came to Be. Pronounce these words, page 86. Birds. Begin. Baked. Beach. Beside. Very. Valleys. Live. Lovely. Marvelous. Will. World. With. Watch. Women. Why the Jellyfish Has No Bones, page 91. Long ago, all the sea creatures lived in the palace of the Dragon King at the bottom of the sea. In those days, the jellyfish had bones and could swim very fast. All the other fish loved him because he was so kind. But the palace doctor, the octopus, was jealous. One day, the daughter of the Dragon King became sick. The octopus saw a chance to hurt the jellyfish, and so he lied. He told the king she would certainly die without the medicine made from the liver of a monkey. He asked the king to send the jellyfish to find a monkey. The jellyfish swam and swam. Finally, he saw a monkey who had fallen into the water. The monkey could not swim, and the kind jellyfish took him on his back. The thankful monkey promised to help the princess. When they were near the palace, the monkey changed his mind. He said, "I left my liver in a tree on the island. Take me back and I'll get it." But as soon as the monkey climbed the tree, he waved goodbye. The poor jellyfish swam back to the palace empty-handed. At the palace, the octopus said to the king, "Let me beat this no-good jellyfish for you." And he beat the jellyfish until all its bones were broken. Just then the princess came in. "I'm all better," she said. Then the king realized that the octopus had lied. He told him to go away and never come back. And so the jellyfish became the Dragon King's favorite. And even though he still has no bones and can't swim, the other creatures of the sea do not bother him. Why the Jellyfish Has No Bones. Pronounce these words, page 94. Lived. Loved. Left. Look. Lie. Lied. Long. Liver. Palace. Jellyfish. Jealous. Finally. Fallen. Told. All.